review what we're talking about. So the Mishnah says that the Megillah can be read. There are occasions where it's read on the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. Of course, the world cities always read it on the 15th. Never later. But there's an occasion where it can be read on the 11th. And that would be if Purim falls on Sunday. So the regular cities will read it on Sunday, which would be day 14. And the walled cities on Monday, Shushan Purim 15th. But the villagers who come to the city only on Monday and Thursday, so they would have come to the city on Thursday. So the Megillah would be read for them, and Thursday would have been the 11th of Adar. So he brings this Maamar. It's based on the Maamar of the Rabbi Marash and the Rabbi Rashab, 50 years prior to 1965. 1915, based on the words of the Shalah, that these dates are very significant. And he addresses the first, the lowest, the first, and the highest. 11 and 15. What's 11? So 11 is 5 and 6. Vav and Hey. What's Vav and Hey? Vav and Hey are the final letters of Shem Havayah. So that's the starting point. The starting point are the final letters, Vav and Hey. The parallel in Avodah, let's just remember before we go further, that the Yud-K, Vav-K in general expresses the following. The Yud expresses Chachma, the Hey expresses Bina, the Vav, the 6 midas of Hashem, from Chesed to Yesod, and the final Hey, Malchus. The parallel in Avodas Adam is serving Hashem. Let's go now from the bottom up. Hey would mean that's Ma'aseh b'Poel, that's action, thought, speech, and action. Vav is serving Hashem with midas, basic midas, the basic emotions. The higher Hey with understanding, and the Yud in general, Bittul Mesiras Nefesh, the highest level. So therefore the Megillah is read, says the Mishnah, on the 11th, the starting point, the lowest level, as you proceed to 15, is the 11, because 11 represents the latter two letters of Hashem's name, the Vav Hey. 15, which is the ultimate, not beyond, not higher than that, not beyond, that says the Mishnah. So 15 is the Yud-K, the first two letters. The Tachlis Aliyah and the words of the mind, but the absolute descent. As we explained, Avodah, understanding and Bittul Mesiras Nefesh also. So he adds in brackets also, this is technical, as it were, but we should know it. He adds in brackets, it's to be pointed out that if you add up 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, it's 65. 65 is the gematria of Shem Adnai, Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud. What's Adnai? Adnai is the Keli, the Heichal, the sanctuary, as it were. And the very word Heichal also is the same numerical value as Adnai, 65, Hey, Yud, Chaf, Lamed, 5, 10, 20, 30. So what Adnai is the Heichal, the chamber, as it were, of Shem Havayah. Shem Havayah manifests God, the Lord, in Adnai means Lord, in Shem Adnai. As the Pasuk says, V'Havayah be'Heichal Kodshe. The prophet saw Habakkuk, Havayah in his holy chamber. What's a holy chamber? He perceived Shem Adnai, which means actual governance, Lord, as God manifests as governor of creation. So, close brackets. Back to the general theme. This is the meaning of the Megillah is read on the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. Sorry. Yeah. starting with 11, beginning of the Nikraas and Megillah as it's read by Hashem. The diak is, as we mentioned yesterday. The Mishnah says Megillah Nikraas. The Megillah is read. Why doesn't the Mishnah say kindness and Megillah? We read the Megillah, like for example, it says about Shema. The Mishnah talks about in Masechta Brachas. When you read the Megillah, it doesn't say Me'ema say Shema Nikraas. When is Shema read, it's Me'ema say kindness and Shema. When do we read the Shema? So the illusion here is the Megillah Nikraas is in fact that it's read by God. I'm not talking about our reading. Talking about the Eivishter's reading. That's the hint here. The Eivishter's reading the Megillah, manifesting himself in all these levels, Vav Hey, all the way to Yud-K. So it starts with Lamata Lamaila, the lower levels, and then reaches the heavens, the Yud-K, the test Vav, the 15. And that explains also. So let's begin now with Zehu. So we're by the number 7, just below that. Please find it. So that's with Zehu. That's why Shani in the Megillah Nikraas B'Yud Aleph, the starting point, the lowest level. That the Megillah is read on the 11th of Adar, in brackets, Lifnei Yud Aleph as well, before the 14th and 15th. Who reads it? Warak B'Kfarim, the villagers. Obviously, there's 3 levels here. There are villagers, there's regular city dwellers, and then there's city dwellers that are enclosed. And obviously, there are the 3 levels in Avodah, in sophistication, as it were, of Avodah. The villager, the city dweller, and the one who dwells in a city that's surrounded, Achdus, and surrounded when? From the time Yeshua entered Yisrael, connected to Yisrael. So therefore, now back in the Maamar, so who reads in the 11th? Only the villagers. They are lower, not only than the walled city, but also the big cities, which are not surrounded by a wall, that they would read on the 14th. Now we start to explain what are these things Baruchni is. First, you understand the definition of a city, Begashmius, and Halacha will give us an indication of what it means, Baruchni is. Because the Mishnah goes on to say, the Gemara explains, what's considered a city as opposed to a village? It must have 10 people not engaged in commerce, in a livelihood. They're not engaged in malacha, and they are supported by the community. And what's their role? They're leaders. So they're engaged in community affairs. They betam Torah, or they're sitting and learning. So we see that the inyan of a yid is a developed level of kedusha. The villagers have none of that, which is why they have to come to the city to hear the Megillah. Moreover, back to the city here, so we were up to Baklos inyan irhu. What's the inyan of an ir? It's expressed in this pasuk. Go to Moshe Kosev. It's a pasuk in Tilim. Godol Havaya. God is great. Havaya is invoked here. And exceedingly praised, Be'ir Elokeinu, in the city of our Lord. Of course, it's a Frank Yerushalayim. The deeper meaning here is V'kivin she'godol Havaya. Since we're speaking about a revelation of Havaya, Godol Havaya, great is God. Negam ha'ir, so even the level of a city, Ir Elokeinu, the Ir Gedol is called a great city. V'ad le'ir Gedol b'pashtos, and this would manifest in a large metropolis, Shesh B'Yishuv Godol, a lot of Yidden, a lot of people sitting there. seems what he's adding here is that what makes a city is the revelation of Hashem Havaya to some degree, the God will Havaya. And he is acknowledged and praised where Be'ir Alekeinu. So since there's a recognition, a connection, a revelation to God will Havaya, that makes that an Ir, a city. Baruch Li is a higher level of habitat, a Yishuv God. Yep, we're following the general symbolism. Yes, folks?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Amnon, however, Pachas Mikan, the lowest level, and as a kfar is a village. We don't have Asara Batlonim, and their pursuit is basically eking out a livelihood. That consumes everybody there. Still, Mikam Mokim, what is the end of the story of the Megillah? In a village, even in the level of a villager, Yeshtem Kol Yonim, he too has all the Inyan of Eira, V'Simcha, V'Sose V'Kod. Like Megillah. V'Yeshna Gama'in, the Megillah Nikraas, and moreover, this is very bekitzer, but even the villagers connected to all these dates. First of all, Yud Aleph is certainly connected to 11, which is unique to the villagers. That's the level of Vaveh of Shem Havaya. The Aj Achgach Boim, that's a stepping stone from where it proceeds. The Tachlis Hashlemus to the absolute perfection, Shazagin, the Tesavov, which is the 15th. Shaboy Imdimato, that we're saying now, we're saying this Maimer was said, the Fabenya was Purim at night, so it's already Tesavov, that's what we're holding now. The Kaim Mesira, that's when the moon is full, and what's with the moon? The moon is the recipient, Pines HaMalchus, that's the Vavhe, that's the villager. He's only about action. There's action, but there's no Yudke, no Bin, and the Bittel, the experience of Shem, of Godel Havaya. But nonetheless, he proceeds from the 11th to the 15th day of the month, when Malchus is full, in other words, fully aligned with Mashpia, with Zoh. Shalachein Gam B'Shem Havaya, Harei Ze B'Ofen Shemagiyim B'Bchinas Yudke. Hence, the villager begins in the lowest levels of Shem Havaya, only the Vaveh, 11, he proceeds and reaches the level of Yudke, the highest Gilui. And he too is part of the happy outcome of Leihud and Moishe Erev Simcha V'Sasam V'Kor. Let's go further. We'll learn together. Days. But first, for those who just got on, we had a baby grandson last night, born here in
Mazel Tov.
New York. Yeah, it's a Rachel and Eli Deitch, Baruch Hashem. V'hinei Klaus in the Megillah Nekrat. What's it up to? Yeah, Nikraas in the Megillah Nekrat. So the general whole Inyan here of the Megillah being read. This is the Megillah of Shem Havaya and all of its levels. Starting with Yud Aleph, the lowest level, Ad Tachlis Hashlem is still the highest level. The Tesvav, the 15th, Koshur Im Kololus Inyan, the Purim. It's all, of course, bound up with Purim. Calling Yoni Purim, Yayin. Because all the Inyan of Purim are through wine, right? The whole story of Purim revolves around wine. It starts off with the Suda of Achashverosh, which is all Ashtia Kados Ein Oines, all about wine, and it concludes with the Mishtah Yain, which Esther makes, at which time exposes Haman, reveals her identity, and so on. What's Yayin? Yayin is wine. Yayin, the Bechinas Bina, is Bina, connection, Wine has taste. Wine induces an expansive frame of mind. That's bina, understanding, expansion. What's bina, as we said before, he hated sharing that B'chinas Yud Kei. It's the first hey of Yud Kei Vav Kei. But not the latter hey, that's Malchus. So he's saying that the focus is the hey, because that's bina and that's yayin. He's saying it's not just bina alone, but bina as drawn into bina is the very first letter, the bittul, the yud of Shem Havai drawn into bina. Okay, it's very cryptic, friends. We'll just keep on going. I don't know if later gets one or not. Yeah, we'll see. Let's have a look. So, however, Gam B'chinas bina shebetachlis hashlemis begin Nikraas b'tesvav. B'chinas Yud Kei, however, even the level of bina at its perfection, which is the final date, Yud Kei, Tesvav, which is Yud Kei, which we said is not just bina, but even the level of Yud drawn into bina. Still, it's Adayin in Shalavona Vasage. Bina's understanding. And Purim is higher than that. By Tachlis Hashem is the Purim who he loved the B'chinas Adeloyad. The Inyan of Purim is a connection to the Eivish to Haydn Seichel Loyad. So how do you reconcile that? We just finished saying the only thing to put him is Yayin, the only thing to put him is the Hey or the Yudke. That's the Shleimus, which everything leads to. And that's Bina Havana Vasoga. And now we're saying that no, as everybody knows, the thing to put him is Haydn Asoga, Adeloyad. Answer. Interesting answer coming. I see. Havana Vasoga Bina.
She wants to know where her slippers of these potatoes
I don't know where your slippers are, dear. I don't know. Okay, Zayda's giving a shir now. You can say good morning, because everybody's listening to Zayda teaching Chassidus, learning Torah.
I also
Okay, you guys play in the other room, okay? When Baba gets up, she's going to give it to you. Take the other room. Okay, yeah. So the union is like where's the rule of Havana Vasoga? Base Kriyas Megillah. When the Megillah is being read, so there's Bakavona. You have person has to have Kavon intent. The male has to be the of what? Of Yediyah. But maybe Efshashi, but my lots of the other you can't be in my matzav like the other by Kriyas Megillah. But after reaching the shleimus of the reading of the Megillah, which is Taka Yud Kei Bina, it has been, I say the Yud Kei, the level of hey of Yud Kei, then Taka is the higher down here. And that's Taka the Yud, the pure Yud. As a Yochav with Tzarech Lov, Gam B'chinas HaYud, then he comes to the level of Yud, but this level of Yud that is drawn into Bina, here he means level of Yud. Then it's Mamish Haydn Seichel, Keil, Gam Koitzer Shal Yud, including even the stroke on top of the Yud, which is Ad Lo Yoda. We learned about this if you recall the different Chachmas Timor, which is Haydn Seichel, complete bittul to Lo Yoda. The Mailim Madid of Akbala, the Bada Masoka, completely beyond the limitations of understanding. We're clear? Yeah? Yeah, folks?
Yes.
Okay. Praise Gimel. Hine. The Purim, there's more. Even after coming to the Shleimus of the Tachas of Purim Adela Yoda. So how appropriate, friends, we're learning this now. Never said this at the end of Purim, Shushan Purim. So now it's Tam Shachar. And you can see what's the main thing shall be drawn down here for the whole year. כדי שתוכל להיות המשוך ותכלס העילית עד בימי סחר. So how do we bring the Maimah, the Matzah of Ad Leyoda in the ordinary everyday weekday? Answer, so we have the intermediary of Yom Tov. A regular Yom Tov is the intermediary between Purim and Yemei Sachar. How's that? Let's see the Hasbara. So Yom Tovim are called holy days. Mikroi Kodesh. Visa B'Zoyar. Tlosa Inun Zminin Mikodesh. There are three, it's a reference, I'm assuming, to the three regalim. There are three that are invited, as it were, from the level of holiness. There are three occasions where holiness invites them to attend. That's Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Ki ha'amoid mimchol ma'pirav b'shisi yom edachar. The Yom Tovim mostly fall in the weekday. And so they're, without Yom Tov, they would be ordinary weekdays. So the Yom Tov summons them and elevates these days to the level of Kodesh. Then the ordinary weekday, Yom Tov, when Yom Tov falls in Nikraas, that day is called and invited to the level of Kodesh, the level of holiness. Come and enter into the world of Kedusha. There was Tzav already. As he explains in the Kotet Torah, about Shabbos, the Pasuk says no invitations required. You shall keep Shabbos because it's holy. Shabbos itself is already the supernal holiness. Kodesh, Kodesh is a standalone thing. It's something of its own. The word Kodesh means removed. And Shabbos is fundamentally Kedusha. Masha Kin Yom Tov, that's why this is explaining why Yom Tov is the memutza between Ad Leyoda and the weekday. Because the Yom Tov is an ordinary weekday that's being invited, as it were, connected to the inyan of Kedusha. Masha Kin Yom Tov, Mikra Kodesh. It's a day that's called holy. Now, what's the idea of calling? Calling is summoning. Ha'ora ba'alma, so unlike Shabbos, it's ha'ora ba'alma, it's a mere glimmer, b'kodesh ha'elyon. Like a person, she'kodesh l'chaveira. Like a person calls his friend. So how does he call him? You call him by his name. And what's his name? That's how you get his attention. Mister, I'm talking to you. That's only the merest reflection of him, a person's name. Of course, we know that the paradox that Dafka did Etzer is found, but that's the pnimius. But externally, it's only a very external connection. So too, Yom Tov is called Mikra Kodesh, that it's called holy. Kachin Mikra Kodesh, that what level of Kodesh is being revealed, Mikra Kodesh, a calling of holiness. So what's the conclusion? The Nimtzat comes out. She'in Yina Yomim Tovim Hu. What's Yom Tov? Hasmonas. Hasmonas means invitation. What's it means? Preparation. Hamshochas HaKedusha. We're drawing down from Kedusha, Mepchinas Yud Kedesh Shem Havaya, which is the level of Kodesh, and we're drawing it down where? Into the weekday. Order of Kodesh Elyon into the weekday. Malachin, he concludes the point that is in the Mutza. Therefore, Yom Tov is the intermediary. It's the vehicle by which the Hamshacha will be in the highest levels of what we draw down Shemavaya at the deepest level, the Yud and Kaitzer Yud of the Adal Yoda Shebapurim, B'Meis HaChoil Shebakol Hashana Kula. So Yom Tov is intermediary to draw down the Lo Yoda, the Kaitzer Yud, the complete L'mayim Nasechel, the absolute bittul of Purim in the whole year. As I think we said, we learned the Purim mind, the Rebbe's beer. This is the Bir HaPechsidus of Adal Yod Ben Or Baruch Modcha means not Chas v'Sholom that we blow the distinction. Adarabah, the distinction comes from a place of Lo Yoda, hide and Seichel, because that's what Eibishter wants, and that's a distinction that's not and never negotiable. Mashenkin distinction that's Yoda. It's based on Seichel. So there's room for negotiation, for exceptions, and so on. So that's what he's drawing here. You know, into Seichel, in Yemais HaChoil, Mamash, into Gvul, into Teva, into his personal life, he's drawing the Lo Yoda, the absolute bittul of Purim. And what's the intermediary of that is the Mikra Kodesh of Yom Tov.
So why wait 30 days between Purim and Pesach? If the whole kavanah is to bring it down, Pesach should be closer to Purim.
Yeah. Muslims say you have to hold on to the Lo Yoda till then.
Okay. Speak to the wife.
Yeah. The Bambas, the experience of Purim is so powerful that it carries us till Pesach. Still nursing his hangovers for a month. You don't know. But that that's Purim. Misvah Gula Lagula. It's the whole month of Adar is there's an opinion that the Megillah can be read the whole month. So the Inyan of Purim is still the whole month. Then he comes to Shchedesh Nisan already. It's Yom Tov Dik. We don't say Tachman. So we're feeling already the Yom Tov of Pesach. So there's a strong connection. Purim is by no means just receded into the past. Let's continue. Rabbi Yesh Davai. Like the Bible can explain. Just 1 second. Moishe, you don't have your coffee warmer. It's cold. Chaim's question, it's cold. How do we keep it warm? Need Moishe wants coffee warmer.
You'll get your traveling one.
I need a traveling one. That's still going strong after 12 years. We made a cheshbon. It's 12 years. Rabbi say, Yesh Levai, like Yeshiva Shaykhs, that's Chalas Masechtas Megillah. We'll understand that the connection between the beginning of the Masechta Megillah, which we're learning now, Megillah Nikraas. Megillah is read all the way till Tesavov. Imsina Masechta. Oh, kind of answer to your question. Oh, that Pesach Mom starts right away after Purim. She is shailing the doishim in yonder shul yod. To answer to your question. We start learning the halachas of Pesach, so we start thinking of Pesach. Not talking, we're immediately talking. So the end of Masechet Megillah says that we start to inquire and expound in yonder shul yod in Hilchas Pesach, the Pesach. The laws of Pesach on Pesach, Hilchas Batzeres, the laws of Shavuos on Shavuos, Hilchas Achad B'Chad. When do you start? 30 days before. In Nikraas. So right away after the Shemis of Purim, the 15th, you have to draw it into the whole year, but there's more coming. Not just Pesach. It's all the Yom Tovim are invoked immediately at the end of Masechta Megillah. Yichas Pesach Pesach, Yichas Atzeres Batzeres, Yichas Chag B'Chag. The Gemara in Masechta Megillah right away talks the connection is that the Sim Masech the Megillah talks right away about learning the halachas, all the Yamim Tovim. Why? Because all the other Yamim Tovim are the Memutza, not the point I just said. Now you start learning the halachas now. Although the Chayre, he was going to say it. No, but it starts 30 days before. And why the 3 Yomim Tovim? Sheklalutzim him Gimel HaKavim, the 3 Yomim Tovim, and in general the 3 Kavim, Kav HaChesed, that's Avram, but it's Avram Avinu. And that's what in Hilchas Pesach bePesach. So Avram Avinu is connected to Pesach. The first Chesed. Then Kav HaGvura, but it's Yitzchak, she said, B'teich Pachad, his Aveda was Gvura, Shein Hilchas Atzeres Batzeres, that's Shavuos. Now we see that in Avram is Chesed and Pesach is Gilim Milamayla, and Shavuos invoked, the Parcha Nishmasan and the Bereses of Bezei, Yidden were trembling and so on. That's the Aveda of Yitzchak. Yeah, he goes to see about Derek Silva, Kil HaShefer, Chazak Meyoid, Vayechad Kolam, and the voice of the Sheikh was very loud indeed, exceedingly the people trembled. And moreover, Gedisa B'Medesh, Kil HaShefer, Vayeshefer the Elish Yitzchak. That which Shefer was it? That's the from the ram of Yitzchak. The left horn, and the right one will be sounding already to preceding Mashiach. And we see the connection, of course, to Sukkot, Chag HaSukkos. Yaakov made for his flock. The Torah says Sukkot, he made these booths. So he's the Avodah of Sukkot. So that's why the Masechta Megillah talks about right away the very end of the whole conclusion of Masechta Megillah, which represents a conclusion of Purim. What does it talk about? The 3 Yomim Tovim. Because the Yomim Tovim, Elo, it's critical that this subject be brought up now at the end of the story of Purim, of Masechta Megillah, because through these Yomim Tovim, Nishlam v'Nistayim, in the Megillah Nikraas, and this is the conclusion, the Shleimus of the Megillah being read, which means the Gila, Mila, Maila, Shem Havaya, all of these levels, but in such a way, they be drawn down through the year. So the Memutza is the 3 Yomim Tovim. And we suggested that it begins right away, learning the halachas 30 days before. Yeah, let's go a bit further. This is Shalachis Tzibisaktas Megillah B'chas Pesach B'Pesach. So after the conclusion of learning Masechta Megillah, we learn that you have to learn the laws of Pesach on Pesach, actually before. Yichas Atzeres B'Atzeres, Yichas Achag B'Chag. Hinei Hadrin Allah Masechta Megillah. What's the minig? Then we go back to the very beginning. Shechayzim made up on last semester. We go back again to the beginning, Megillah Nikraas. And what do we see? What are we reading there? Shekris and Megillah Dafka. We're reading that the Megillah is read during the week. We never read the Shabbos in brackets. Megillah b'Shabbos like Gadinon. We never read the Megillah on Shabbos. My time is sitting more about the bees, not kill Chad Megillah and Megillah, because everybody's obligated on the one hand. May not kill Bekin Megillah. Not everybody knows how to read it. And so the sages ordained, the Chachamim would go, so the Chachamim said not to read it, and for fear that he'll take it in his hand, and he'll go to the one who's proficient, to learn how to read. You don't go to the bucket that he should read it. You go to the bucket, he should teach you. There, if you end up you'll end up carrying Dal Damas B'Shus Rabbi. So Shabbos is no Kriyas and Megillah. Perforce, Kriyas and Megillah is Daf Gid Meisachel. Moreover, so we have a new appreciation of the opening statement of the Megillah. It now becomes the Tachlis. It now becomes when we read at the beginning, we're ascending to these levels. The Vovke, the Yudke, etc. Now the emphasis is bringing all of that down into the literal 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 days of the week. That's the emphasis here, is the matter, the way it is down here, these weekdays. So paradoxically, we've first learned the Mishnah, we're learning it b'pnimius and b'ruchnius, as these dates represent lofty levels of likus, shemavayit. After learning the whole Masechta, then we appreciate the pashtus, the ordinary weekdays. And that's the kavanah, is to bring down the Ketzer Shel Yud, the Adel Yoda in the weekday. So they're ordinary weekdays. I feel like it's not even the time that's called holy, they're not Yom Tov. And we haven't taken Mishasurim, Basias Malacha, like Yom Tov, where Malacha is forbidden. The Megillah is read in a day where Malacha is permissible. Notwithstanding that Mordechai wanted the Shabbat Taki Yom Tov, but his request was not heeded, because the kavanah is to bring it down dafke into Chayil, into the Halechi Aster Aster. We draw down in this day the highest levels of bittul and oneness with the Eibush of Adel Yoda. We draw down into the ordinary weekday of our everyday lives. And in such a way, he gam b'mshoch Adel Yoda. May Purim b'meisachel the kol hashana kula. So to the Yom Tov. First, we mamshechet in the Yom Tov, that's intermediary. And thereby into Yemei of the whole year. Let's finish the paragraph. Shebavidose, that's boy aktana. Friends, listen to this. With his avodah, with his small finger. Gewalt. What a bracha. Matzlicha Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Eibusher grants him matzlacha, with little effort. Hein begashmis vein beruchnis. In gashmis and in ruchnis. The most amazing way that he ever translates this. Boyfriend shalamaylim avon avasaga. He doesn't even understand how this happened. He's matzliach. He doesn't know how he got such a tzlach. Look how the Rebbe translates this. Okay, we'll stop here, continue Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. Stay tuned, and tomorrow I'm driving. We may not be having the shir, so I'll let you know. Keep getting ready to go. We'll see how we do. Stay tuned. Okay, Bracha Matzlacha Yidim, so the story is made the simcha.